president who usually avoids putting Iraq and Vietnam in the same sentence, this was a remarkable speech. Before an audience of veterans, he said there were lessons from Vietnam, not America's decision to fight there, but its decision to retreat.
One unmistakable legacy of Vietnam is that the price of America's withdrawal was paid by millions of innocent citizens whose agonies would add to our vocabulary new terms like boat people, re-education camps, and killing fields.
The implication was clear. An early withdrawal from Iraq could create similar turmoil in the Middle East and leave Americans exposed too.
As we saw on September the 11th, a terrorist safe haven on the other side of the world can bring death and destruction to the streets of our own cities. Unlike in Vietnam, if we were to withdraw before the job was done, this enemy would follow us home.
The images of Vietnam's US-backed government being toppled by communist forces reach deep into the American psyche, a constant reminder of the price of too much foreign policy ambition. But President Bush's critics say Vietnam was a different, much bigger conflict, and the approach to winning the argument on Iraq should be different too.
If you can bring political conciliation, there could be real success. That's the message that the American people really needed to hear, along with a clear plan as to how the U.S. will approach the issue. And instead, they got a tortured misuse of history.
Whatever the historical parallels, Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki had reason to welcome this speech. President Bush firmly endorsed his leadership after venting frustration about him on Tuesday. But both men are waiting for next month's key report on America's military strategy in Iraq. President Bush is already braced for what's likely to be some mixed conclusions, but he had no time for questions today about whether it was time to pull out.
Here's my answer. We'll support our troops, we'll support our commanders, and we will give them everything they need to succeed.
That was the mantra from successive American presidents throughout Vietnam. This memorial to the 58,000 US troops who died there is testament to that. But for many Americans, the parallels between Iraq and Vietnam are not so much about the price of pulling out, but the cost of staying. Richard Lister, BBC News,
all right, Mr.
Washington.
President, now that Karl Rove is gone, we have to be extra careful on how we decide to frame issues.
No, we don't. Framing is easy.
5 minutes later.
You see, Iraq is just like Vietnam.
What, they're both quagmires?
No.
What, they were both started with lies like the WMDs in the Gulf of Tonkin?
No, that's not what I'm...
That we're gonna have to get our troops out on rooftops using helicopters? What?
No, just help me, Turd Blossom. Help